I would like to welcome you to the Ohio Rehabilitation Association's webcast Series 1. This presentation will be on the 5 ways to be, career counseling, and job placement suggestions. The picture selected for this slide shows 4 people characters, green, blue, yellow, and red, holding 4 pieces of a puzzle matching the person's color. I selected this to represent how career counseling and job placement aspects fit together within this session titled 5 Ways to Be, Career Counseling and Job Placement Suggestions. The session will review short suggestions to address specific issues related to career counseling, job placement, and employment. Lena Chong of Talent Design Potential has shared several 5 Ways to Be postings on her LinkedIn website with a focus on improving the workplace environment. These suggestions will be considered for rehabilitation, counseling, social work, and other human services professionals with a specific focus on supporting our clients through career counseling as well as job search and job placement activities. The objectives for this session, as highlighted to the credentialing bodies, include reviewing several 5 ways perspectives. This includes 5 ways to make a good impression, 5 ways to inspire yourself, 5 questions candidates should ask at an interview, 5 ways to use LinkedIn with respect to career counseling or job search and job placement, 5 ways to explore careers and employment, and the 5 best networking tips. I would like to start a discussion with respect to career counseling. As you can see, the picture here is a stopwatch. I'm going to give you a few moments to think about some key words that you might use when you're looking at defining career counseling. Great. Hopefully you will see some of the same career counseling keywords as I have identified here. For example, I believe career counseling is a lifelong process. While we may have a goal in mind with respect to our career and the path that we are going to take, there are many things that can impact this throughout our life. As a result, career counseling can be utilized with individuals who are starting their career or with individuals who are looking at changing their careers. Interests obviously play a big role in career counseling. Other factors that can play a significant impact include abilities, values, your own personality, your background, which can include all of your experiences, your current circumstances or circumstances you're wanting to change, as well as ideas, feelings, and concerns about your career. Based upon the different aspects and keywords identified previously, I have selected the following general definition of career counseling. Career counseling focuses on helping the person understand themselves, which can include the issues of interest, abilities, values, personality, background, and circumstances, with respect to their relationship to work, in order to make better choices. By looking at the various aspects, professionals who work with individuals with disabilities can have a stronger understanding of the career counseling and job placement processes. These aspects can include making a good impression, inspiring yourself, questions you might want to ask in an interview, using LinkedIn, and using networking. Let's start with the first 5 ways from Lena Chong of Talent Design Potential. As a reminder, Lena Chong has agreed to allow us to utilize these as she uses them to focus on making a good first impression. The picture from Ms. Chong's LinkedIn account highlights 5 ways to make a good impression, including showing enthusiasm, showing respect by listening to others' ideas and honoring their desire for privacy and dignity, being open to new ideas, making every effort to be positive, smiling more than frowning, cheering people on the way they do well, realizing that it's not all about you, meaning focusing on what other person's needs are. Let's talk a little bit about each one of these different aspects. Showing enthusiasm. When I think about career counseling or working with somebody on job placement and job development services, you really kind of think about that from an enthusiasm perspective. If I'm looking at making a good first impression with my client, I need to be enthusiastic about working on their case. If I come in and I'm not committed and I'm not enthusiastic about the services that I'm providing with them, I'm not sure I can really expect them to be enthusiastic about the career counseling or the job search process. I think it's really important when we are working with our clients or we're even working on our own needs that we do think about how that impression that we give, how enthusiasm can really play a part in that process. I hope that you see the picture on the screen with a group of individuals sort of cheering one another, that you'll get the sense of the enthusiasm that they might be showing within that group. Showing respect. I actually selected a unique picture with respect to this topic. It is focused on respect with respect to Healthy Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Students Project. While that is one area where there's a lot of controversy going on in our communities at this point, I think the idea of respect is the central focus of that. Ways in which we can show respect, some of them are very easy. We might do so by listening to others' ideas. In many cases, we have a plan, we have an idea of where we want to see our career counseling sessions or our job placement and job search sessions go. It's really important when we are working with clients that we remember that the biggest perspective is where do they want to go. And we can show them respect by listening to their ideas about what they want from the programs that they're participating in. The second area is honoring their desire for privacy. It can be very difficult for individuals to ask for help. And as part of our ethical guidelines, regardless of whether you're coming from a rehabilitation, a counseling, or a social work background, is that idea of confidentiality. There may be things that our clients will share with us that they want to be kept private, and there are things that they might share with us that we really don't have the ability to keep private. And it's really important to be able to show them that respect by honoring their desire for privacy when that is appropriate. The last respect concept is honoring their dignity. Again, we want to look at the individual's right to that dignity, being able to honor that and let them know that they are indeed the one who's controlling the environment in which we're in and the services that are being provided. Being able to treat them like an adult, treat them like a partner in the process, and work with them throughout the entire perspective of career counseling and job placement services to help them meet their goals. The next slide, it representing a character with a light bulb above its head. I selected this in the idea of being open to new ideas. In many cases, the idea light bulb can be seen in many characters with the perspective of new ideas or coming up with an idea. One of the things that we have the benefit of having in our field is the ability to be creative. And many times we can get stuck in our own rut and be doing things the same way with the same clients day after day, day after day, and not really looking at new ideas and new ways to be able to address things. Just because things have always been done the way we've always been doing them doesn't mean that they're not opportunities for us to consider new ideas. And in that overall perspective, if you want to look at making a good impression with folks, being open to their perspectives and their new ideas is another great way to be able to do that. Making every effort to be positive. I think that this can be very helpful when we're looking at our career counseling and job placement roles with our different clients. Being able to smile more than you frown. Cheer people on when they do well. Those are just simple ways to be able to try to remain positive. I'm presently working in an environment where I meet with a lot of students who are trying to make a choice as to which direction they're going to go when they're looking at their college environment and their college decision making. As part of that, I tell them from the beginning, I want to think positive. I want to think that you're going to come to our school. But the only way that's going to happen is if you know, with the information that I provide, that this is going to be the right environment for you. And I think being able to tell them that and letting them know that I hope that they come here, but that I want them to make the right choice for themselves, allows them to know, hey, let's look at the positive focus of things that might be able to be provided. The same thing can happen with respect to students I work with who might be facing a significant medical issue. We always want to think positive, that we're going to be able to make changes that are going to have a positive impact on my students, on the families in which they're working with, on the different offices. So being able to try to maintain that positive focus can be very important. For myself, I know that I need to smile more than I frown. Doesn't mean that I'm not happy, that I'm not positive, just means that I get very intense and it doesn't show on my face the positive focus that I want others to see. We always have to think about how does our physical appearance present out to the folks that we are working with. And that can be very important when we're looking at doing career counseling, job placement, and job search issues. The last aspect with regards to making a good first impression is realizing that it's not all about you. I picked a picture here with regards to this slide of a hand holding an umbrella over a person, not themselves, in the middle of a rainstorm. We as human services professionals, as rehabilitation professionals, as counselors, we have that tendency to focus on other person's needs. In many cases, being in that helping profession, that's one of the things that has drawn us to what it is that we do. And many times when we're trying to make that first impression, we can sometimes forget that that impression is not about ourselves. We need to make sure that we're looking at what it is that we can share with somebody in making that good impression that will allow them to see us for who we are as a helping profession and focusing on their needs. When we come back and putting it all together, it really kind of helps to be able to think again about how is a good impression part of our counseling services, part of our job placement, career counseling, job search. How does all of that fit together? I'd like for you to think for a moment with respects to these different ways to make a good impression and identify for yourself what it is that you might be able to change that would help you make a good impression on the clients that you are providing career counseling to, on the clients with whom you are working with in job placement or job search, and potentially even your coworkers, your supervisors, or the employers that you work with within the community who are part of the overall process for these services that we're offering. I want to shift gears a little bit and think about 5 ways to inspire yourself. I mentioned earlier that many of us are in the career or in the counseling profession, in the human services profession, because we want to be in that helping environment. We want to help individuals with respects to whatever their challenges are in life. Part of that means that we need to be able to inspire ourselves and potentially be able to inspire others. Career counseling and job placement can be very stressful for both the provider and the client. I selected the 5 ways to inspire yourself, both for the counselor and placement provider, as well as the client, because I think that we can help our clients inspire themselves in the process. In many ways, our lives can be out of balance, And if we can find the inspiration in the actions we take or the actions that are inspiring to others, it can help lead us to healthier outcomes. The 5 ways here from Lena Chong of Talent Design focus on the 5 ways to inspire yourself. They include reading a quote or an inspiring story. The suggestion there could include following the talent design potential through LinkedIn. The second option is look at something that makes you happy. And that can be actually looking at something, looking at a family photo, looking at your pets, looking at holiday photos, things that give you that inner sense of happiness. Help someone else. You get an amazing sense of self when you're helping others. Do things that lift your spirits. Go somewhere that's open and allows you to appreciate the beauty of life. And finally, be in the moment. Stop and listen to your breath. Feel the breeze. Hear the birds. Let's look at these a little further. The first suggestion was to read a quote or an inspiring story. There are many ways in which we can do this, and clearly for this picture I chose a book. It's got a bookmark about halfway through, but it allows you to be able to look at what quotes or what inspiring stories can help you. Being able to sign up for one of the many inspiring quotes of the day that could be sent to your email. Thinking about things that you want to put out as messages within your own email footer. There are many calendar systems that are out there that will give you a different quote of the day that you can be able to reflect on. If we think about those inspiring stories, those things that drive us, the impact that we have, that can help us as we look at inspiring ourselves. In many cases, it can also help us as we look at inspiring others. So take a moment. Pick a few minutes in your day. Read an inspiring story. Maybe you want to write your own inspirational quote book and be able to create those so that you've got something to go back to about things that mean something to you. The next option was look at something that makes you happy. In this case, I picked the sun, and the sun has a smiling face on it. As we move into spring, at least while I'm creating this webinar, it's moving into spring, I think about how much I enjoy being able to go outside after work and the sun is still shining and it's bright and I can be able to do something. In my case, the sun is giving me that energy. That sun is something that makes me feel happy. I also have a backdrop on my computer of different family pictures, which do include both my family members and my pet family members. I have that going in the background so that if ever I'm in a mood where it's like, man, things are really crazy at work, things are stressful, there's so much to do, I can grab that moment of clarity by being able to look at something that makes me happy. And there is nothing that makes me happier right now than knowing that I have an amazing family who's supporting me in all the different things that I do. If family's not important to you, maybe it's your vacation photos. Maybe it's the countdown to your next vacation. Maybe it's the flowers that are in bloom or the different fresh vegetables that you're going to pick up at the farmer's market this weekend. It's all really about looking at something that makes you happy and then finding that inspiration from that. Help someone else. This picture actually has a person on a ladder, and they are actually reaching back and grabbing the hand of the person below them and being able to help them up the ladder. Now, we're in a helping profession. We obviously are involved in having an impact on people's lives on a daily basis. So helping someone else might seem like something, wow, I do that all the time. But is it really, are we really helping someone else because it's our job, or are we helping someone else because it's part of our human nature? You think about the person who's walking in behind you with their arms full of paperwork and lunch bags and briefcases. Holding the door open for someone and having them appreciate that or not appreciate that can help you be able to find your own inspiration. I'm amazed at the number of people who seem to have genuine gratitude when you do something as simple as hold the door open for them. If you are in the line at the grocery store and the person in front of you is a few cents short on their grocery order and you have it to give, offer them the assistance. Help them out in that moment. If you see somebody on the side of the road, maybe you don't feel comfortable in stopping and helping them out, but maybe calling the highway patrol and letting them know that there's someone stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire. It's amazing how comforting it can be for someone to stop and give you that helping hand when you're going along. And it also can be very helpful for you as an individual, you personally, to get that sense of personal satisfaction, knowing that you potentially made a difference in someone's life. Do things that lift your spirits. I found this really neat. The last one on this section is be in the moment. I actually have a picture of a drop of water that has now created ripples in the water. But being in the moment, take that moment to stop. Listen to your breathing. Feel the breeze on your face. Listen to the birds chirp. You know, taste your lunch. Be able to take the time to savor the great food that you've prepared for yourself. Put our cell phones away. There's some interesting signs that I see at restaurants all the time. We don't have Wi-Fi. Talk with the person you're with. Be in that moment. Take the time and enjoy the people that you're with. Take the time to enjoy the break that you get for lunch or the break that you take in the afternoon. Sit in your car for a few moments before you drive home. Take those times in that moment to reflect for just a few minutes on your day. Get rid of the things that you can get rid of and leave them at work where you can, so that when you get home, you can be in the moment at home, so that you're not stressing about the things that you've left behind because they'll be there tomorrow. Really being able to think about ways to inspire yourself by being there, being present, being in the moment. As we go back to our puzzle pieces and our individuals holding those puzzle pieces, it's kind of a way to be able to think about bringing it all back together. Why is it that we want to inspire ourselves? What's it going to matter if I read a daily quote that's inspiring? You know, gee, I go look at something that makes me happy, or I help someone else, or I do things that lift my spirits, I maintain in the moment. What does that have to do with career counseling? What does that have to do with job placement? The reality of this is the more that we can inspire ourselves, the stronger the potential is going to be that we're going to in turn be able to inspire those people that we're working with. Be able to inspire that employer to give you the opportunity to bring someone in who can provide them the support and the services and the employee that they need. Help our clients recognize and realize what job goals are going to be appropriate for them, and then helping them find those career goals and those job goals within their community. So really being able to inspire yourself allows you to in turn move on and inspire other people. So I hope that you take some time, think about how you can inspire yourself, and think about the different ways in which you might be able to work with your different clients, your employers, your coworkers, as you look at being an inspiration and move forward. Let's move on into some discussions with respects to job placement. As we look at why folks are going to career counseling or changing jobs, many of the reasons can be hard to express to a potential employer. Why would you want to leave your last career? Why are you making such a drastic change? Maybe it's because of a physical or mental issue that won't impact the new job. Maybe it's a personal reason. In career counseling, you may address many of these issues before you even begin job search activities. As we move into job search, though, there are many things that can be of great help. In this case, we're going to move back and talk about another one of Lena Chong's Talent Design Potential's 5 ways. This one here focuses in on the 5 best networking tips. Now, networking can be difficult for folks because you have to really kind of think about this overall process. So I liked how Lena addressed the 5 best networking tips because they're things that can be simple. The first and best networking tip that we can offer folks is know what your objectives are. Are you networking with somebody so that you can potentially use them as a reference? Are you networking with them so that they can help provide you with other ideas of how you might reach what your career goals are? Or are you networking with them to actually try to be able to get a job from them? And that's a little bit different twist on the networking ideas. The underlying premise, though, is if you're going to look at networking, you need to first establish what your objectives are in that process. The second networking tip is to master your introduction. They can talk about an introduction in a variety of different ways, and one of the ways in which we have looked at that in the past is to look at what they call an elevator speech. The elevator speech is a lot of times used in the sales perspective, but in reality, networking is about selling yourself to this employer, to this friend, to this colleague, to this person who you want to be able to work with. So that elevator pitch really is something that could be delivered in the time span of an elevator ride. 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending upon how long it is or how high up the building you're going. Basically lends itself to you being able to give somebody a few short seconds, couple of minutes of information about who you are and how that can be of help to them. What is it that you're looking for when you think about your objectives, and how can you incorporate that into your introduction? How can you share important information with somebody very quickly and be able to help them help you in that overall networking environment? So it's really important to think about your introduction and work with that and determine how you can be able to share information as quickly and as effectively as possible. The third networking tip is joining groups relevant to your work, or in some cases, your desired work. When I look at what it is that I want to do when I continue in my career, there are many ways in which I can utilize my background in job placement type services. In reality, when I look at who it is that I want to be associated with, I want to join the groups that are going to have an impact on my career and my future. It's one of the biggest reasons why I got involved in the Ohio Rehabilitation Association. I have been able to network with some amazing individuals throughout this organization, and I hope that they understand how much of a positive impact they have had on me and how I have grown in my profession. The fourth networking tip is turning your contacts into a network. It's very easy for me to say, oh, I'm going to go contact this former manager that I worked with, this former coworker that I worked with. But you need to be able to expand that beyond your contacts and into an actual network. Being able to reach out to people you know, talk with them about what it is that your objectives are, sharing with them your introduction. You build that from a contact into a network by being able to ask them who else you might be able to talk to, who they could refer you to be able to address some of these questions or concerns that you have, who they might be able to recommend that you reach out to for employment opportunities. That's what it's going to take to be able to turn those contacts into a network. And when you go from your first person to the person they have recommended, it's fair to be able to say, Bob Jones recommended me to you to talk about this. Deanna Arbuckle said you are the go-to person when it comes to learning how this process works. And being able to then cultivate that contact. And then when you're finished, being able to help them help you be able to find the next network connection. So networking doesn't stop with the first person that you know. It really is about getting to the next person, to the person after that, and really being able to keep that network building for you to be able to reach those identified objectives. The last networking tip that we get from this slide is to make notes about each contact. When you walk away from somebody, if they've given you their business card, take a moment, flip it over on the other side, and write a few notes. If you talk to 6 or 8 people in a month, are you going to be able to remember if Deanna Arbuckle was the one who said you needed to go to employer ABC, or was Deanna the one who gave you that reference to go over and talk to company XYZ? Being able to keep those notes. Sometimes the back of the business card is a great place. Sometimes you might need another way to be able to do that. So there's lots of different ways to keep those notes. But that way, when you're looking at who made the recommendation, who made the referral, when you get home, you can expand upon that and you can keep good notes so that you know when you go to talk to Deanna Arbuckle, you can be able to tell her that Bob Jones is the one who referred her. And hopefully all of those tips working together will really help you be able to create the network when you're looking at how can you help yourself in your own career planning, How can you help your clients in their career planning? How can you build your job search and job placement network to be able to help your clients reach those job placement and job search goals? The next 5 things is 5 ways to utilize your LinkedIn account. It's kind of interesting, I think, that we looked at LinkedIn account as a way to be able to address our job placement services or our job search, because that's where I came in contact with Lena Chung of Talent Design Potential. So she actually provided this as one of her ways to be able to utilize your LinkedIn account to be able to help you in that overall process. The first thing that she recommended on that is having a nice photo. They indicate that it's more likely that you're going to get noticed or remembered if you have a nice photo on your LinkedIn account. You also want to consider what that photo represents. Photos can give people a lot of information about you. So when you pick your photo for a LinkedIn account, or you help a client pick a photo for a LinkedIn account, you want it to be something that's going to give that perception of that professional environment. The second thing, you want to create a suitable header, something that describes you, not just your title. I've been doing some different work on LinkedIn with respects to my schoolwork that I'm involved in, and one of the things I found interesting was that your title or your header doesn't have to be your current job position. People might read my job title, which is Disability Services and Assistive Technology Coordinator, and they might think, oh, so now I know what Deanna does. But in reality, there are many things that I have going on in my life, and many different aspects, both personally and professionally, that I'm engaged in that may not be represented by that job title. My work with Ohio Rehabilitation Association and creating these webcasts can be something that I want people to know about. But again, maybe that's not really what my suitable header would be, depending upon how I'm using LinkedIn. I've been very focused on work-life balance, and that's one of the things that I've been working on personally and professionally. And so right now, my focus on my LinkedIn profile is being a work-life balance scholar or a scholarly practitioner. So it's kind of a way to be able to kind of identify who you are beyond just the job title. The third perspective is showcasing your work and achievements. If you've written articles, if you've been part of a media interview, if you've won an award, those kinds of things can really help you when you're looking at your overall LinkedIn process and being able to showcase all that work and all those achievements that you have. When I look at the different things that I've done throughout my career, there have been many ways in which I have grown and changed over the course of the different positions that I have. And I want to be able to showcase those types of things in a LinkedIn account. When we look at the different things that our clients are doing, and if they're going to use LinkedIn and we're being able to help them with that, then we can really look at that as a way to be able to help them demonstrate the achievements that they have. And each of those achievements are going to be different for each person, but it really can be an important way to showcase who you are by sharing some of those achievements and some of those work experiences. Now, for me personally, when I think about what it is that I've done and what it is that I've been in life, and I think about my LinkedIn account, you know, is being Employee of the Month really something that means something to somebody else? The reality is it could. That could really show somebody that if your coworkers had to vote for an Employee of the Month, they selected you. So sometimes where you might think something is not as important, keep in mind you want to focus on those works and those achievements that you have and how a potential employer or a potential networking contact is going to help you with that. Something else that's really important with LinkedIn and utilizing that effectively is writing and sharing additional content. In reality, LinkedIn is not just about your resume. Being able to engage in other groups and being able to utilize that and make connections. You want to add content. You want to share information. If you find a great article that you really think can help other people, talk about it on your LinkedIn account. If you have an opinion about something and you feel like, I really wish people would think about this when they respond to things this way or that way, share that information on LinkedIn. Obviously, you want the content to be professional. LinkedIn is not the place where you necessarily want to um, provide pictures of your dinner plate like you would on other social media groups, but it is a great way to be able to write and share additional content. Now, if you're a chef and you're using LinkedIn, it would be perfectly appropriate to be showing pictures of food. So don't think that that's the only way you can do that, but you want to think about what you're writing and what your content is about and how that connects to that identity that you're sharing on the LinkedIn profile. The last recommendation that we have from Lena with regards to utilizing LinkedIn is getting recommendations. Ask people for recommendations. Give other people recommendations. It's a great way to build your network, for people to have different insight into what it is that you might be able to demonstrate. When I go into my LinkedIn account, I always get that prompt that says, so-and-so has indicated you have strong skills in this. I try to go back and look at the skills that pop up on their page and see, wow, do I know what this person really does? Do I know what Thomas does and that he does great? And can I be able to help him build his LinkedIn profile by giving him a recommendation? Can I help Lily be able to look at what it is that she has accomplished and say, wow, you know what? Lily really does do an excellent job with this. What about Nora? Is Nora somebody who really can help some other folks figure out this aspect or that aspect in something? The more recommendations you can give, the more likely it is that individuals will feel comfortable giving recommendations back to you. So it really is important to do that aspect of LinkedIn, both giving and receiving of recommendations. Considering that our focus now is on the job placement aspect of things, I was able to pull up a 5 ways to find work. Lena Chong and Talent Design Potentials came up with these neat ideas. They might be things that you can use with your clients to be able to help them progress into that job placement environment and find those career paths that they desire. In many cases, the first step can be very important, which is building a bridge. And that's basically finding a way to bridge your skills, your qualifications, address any gaps that you might have, study, get certified in a certain area, be able to know and show how your skills and qualifications are going to help you get to that career path that you desire. In that overall process, sometimes it can be taking a class and getting certified. Sometimes it can be doing formal educational training and those kinds of things to get a degree. There are many ways in which you can bridge the gap in your skills and qualifications to get you where you want to be from a career path perspective. The second objective is meeting. Find out who in your circle can introduce you to someone who's in the role that you desire now. And they talk a lot about that when we're looking at career counseling and job placement services. In many cases, you can do that under that informational interview perspective. If you're working with clients and they don't know what they want to do, having them meet somebody who's doing the different types of jobs that they want can really be helpful. I often talk with people who have the desire to be self-employed, and they think being self-employed is going to be great because they're going to be their own boss. They're going to be able to do things the way they want to do things. And that's great. There were many things about being self-employed that I really appreciated when I was in that position. But there's also things that you maybe don't think about when you have to be self-employed. For example, if you're going to be a job placement person and you're going to be self-employed, not only are you responsible for job placement, but you're also responsible for marketing and getting yourself new clients and retaining those clients. You're responsible for accounts payable, being able to create the invoices, get those invoices out to people. You're responsible for accounts receivable, those, getting money back in, making sure that the people, your clients, are paying their bills. That may not be the skill set that you have. So you really need to make sure when you're looking at the different career paths that somebody is looking to go down, that you really talk with them and you have them meet people and introduce them to people who are in that role so they can help them determine, is this the job that I want? And if so, then how do I go about getting it? The third recommendation that they give is interning. Offer to earn less to learn. And that's very easy to say in the big picture perspective of saying, hey, I'm going to work for you and I'm going to allow you to pay me less money maybe than what you would pay me if I already had my credentials. And that can be hard. We all know that we have our own personal expenses that we have to meet, and we've got those financial obligations. So when we look at that overall process, we have to be able to make sure that in that picture of things, we are able to meet our financial needs. That doesn't mean that we can't sometimes make an agreement with somebody to work for less so that we can learn a job. There's a lot of different ways in which you can go about getting internships. You can look at volunteer experience. You can look at those things as ways to be able to help your clients get into that career. If you're in workers' comp, there's different perspectives within work trials that you might be able to utilize with folks. If you're working with Social Security recipients, there might be different aspects within their Social Security benefits for work trials, those types of things. We might be able to have people set up on situational assessments to be able to allow them to go out and have help in evaluating whether or not this is the way you want to go with things. The fourth recommendation under the 5 ways to find work is to get noticed. Showcase your skills, build your brand, share your opinion. All those things can be very beneficial. When you look at the different resumes that people create, they're wanting to showcase their skills. They might want to create a brand or an identity that makes a difference to who they are. You can do that through LinkedIn. You can do that through your resume. You can do that through business cards. But being able to showcase, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is how I can help be better within your company and help make your company better. You know, your brand, what's your identity, who you are, how does that fit? I go back to my LinkedIn profile and I chose to list myself as a work-life balance scholarly practitioner. And part of that is because of the educational work that I'm doing. But the other part about that is that I think work-life balance is so much a big part of our lives that that's kind of my brand right now. That's what I want to focus on when I look at the different career decisions that I'm making, when I'm helping my students make the career decisions that they want to make. Share your opinion. There are lots of ways to share your opinion. You can be able to create a blog. You can get involved in writing things on that blog. You can write letters to the editor. You can update your LinkedIn page to share information about your opinion. You can get involved in groups. Get involved in the Ohio Rehabilitation Association. Create the next webinar for our webcast series 2. There are lots of ways that you can get involved and share your opinion about things. All of those perspectives can help you in that finding work and finding your next step on your career path. And it can also be helpful for your clients. You know, if they really want to showcase their skills, if they want to create their brand, if they want to share their opinion, there are different ways in which they can be able to look at doing that. The last of the 5 ways to find work is get recommended. Obviously, doing good work, asking for testimonials, those are ways in which you can share your past experiences from someone else's profession. I've had an interesting experience in the last few years where I have had individuals reach out to me and they have told me in writing that one of the things that they have found beneficial was the help that I have given them. And being able to take those different testimonials, those different few moments that somebody has shared with me, to be able to say, all right, man, that's something that can tell the next person about who I am, about what it is that I have done. And so rather than just taking those and filing them away, I actually create them as my things to look at that give me satisfaction, that help inspire me. I don't actually want to disclose names of the individuals, so I might take the card that they write me and cut out part of it and part of that saying without their personal information and post it on my bulletin board. When I look at the future then and who it is that I'm going to get recommendations from or testimonials from, I can be able to go back to those and be able to make reference to who is the person that can say something about me, that can be able to show that I did good work. So as we put together all of these different opportunities within the job placement aspects to help ourselves, to help our clients, it really is about what resources are available. So what can we do within that networking perspective that's going to help our clients reach that career goal that they have? What can they do within LinkedIn, if LinkedIn is appropriate for them, that's going to help them in that overall process of finding the next job that's part of their career path? How can they find work? What can they use as far as bridging that gap to skills that they need to be able to do the jobs that they want? How do they get to the point where they're meeting the right people, interning for the right places, getting noticed, sharing those accomplishments, sharing that information? All of those things come together as we put that puzzle together to be able to help them as they look at that overall process of securing employment. The next section that we've got is on interviewing tips. And interviewing tips can be something that can be addressed both in that career counseling perspective on how do you address difficult topics. It can also be something that you can address within your job placement and job search aspects with your clients. With the way that job markets change, it can be very helpful to consider what other things about positive interview questions are out there. Lena Chong of Talent Design, again, has several sets of 5 ways with respects to interviewing tips. And there are different things that hopefully will help you to help your clients in that overall process. So what you might be asked, when you're looking at that hiring manager, those things that they are asking people, the current kind of buzz questions that are out there, things that you can get looked at to look at and be prepared for when you're interviewing. Lena has given us several of those to be able to consider. Why would you like to join us? You know, in many cases, what is it about that employer or that position that has drawn you to fill out that application? And that can be difficult if you've not really done your thought process through and figured out what it is you want to say to somebody. How would you really express why do you want to work with us? Why do you want to join our position? The second perspective is, what do you understand of this role or this position that you're applying for? It's interesting if you've ever been on a search committee or part of the hiring process where you will see individuals who will apply for things and you really wonder, how did you make the connection between what it is that you have done in your experience with the job that you have just applied for? And so one great way for employers to be able to figure that out is, asking them, what is your impression of what this job is, what this job is going to do? And that can really help them get an understanding of what you feel like that role is going to be able to accomplish. The third item on something that you could be asked during a job interview is, how do you think you can add to their team? And that can be really difficult when you think about that overall process. Unless you know the other members of your team, maybe you're adding something that's already there. And so, that can be very difficult in that overall process. But you want to really think about what it is you're bringing to the table, what it is that you can help people accomplish, what it is that you might help that team accomplish. The fourth item that she brings up is, are there questions you would like to ask? And a lot of that could be a lot of information can be gathered from that type of a question. It really helps the employer get an understanding of what maybe you find as being valuable, how it is that you find that to be part of that overall process, what it is that's drawing you to those positions. If your first question happens to be, how much time do I get off? That can really tell the employer something about what you're motivated by and where things are going to be. The last item is, what did your former or current employer think of your performance? That can be a huge aspect in things and being able to figure out, what did someone else think about you? It also can be very difficult because, maybe you didn't have a great employer who provided you a lot of feedback. And you've got to be able to think about, how can I express to them what I think my other employers or my previous employers have thought about? So it really is important in that overall process to consider these different questions, things that you might be asked or ways that they might ask questions of you or your clients in that interview process. As we keep moving on with that, some more powerful interview questions that Lena and her group at Talent Design Potential. Tell me about something that you were really proud of and why. Wow, that can be a very powerful question because it really can kind of get to the heart of who you are potentially. It shows you really what's important, and it shows an employer what you think is important. So again, what were you really proud of and why? So being able to look at that. A second powerful question she identified, what will you get from doing this job? In that case, they're looking at the motivational perspective. What is motivating you in that overall process? Because those kinds of things can really be important in how that job may feed into how you're motivated. The third one, tell me about the last time you made a mistake and how you dealt with it. Let's be realistic. We all make mistakes in our life. There are things that we do that we wish maybe we would do differently or we could have done differently. But it shows them more importantly than the fact that you've made mistakes, it's how you approach that mistake, what you've learned from it, what you could potentially do different the next time around. So that can be a very powerful question for interviewers to ask you in that overall process. The fourth powerful interview question, how do you work with someone you don't see eye to eye with? Now, if you've ever been in an environment where you're working with somebody and you have different perspectives and different opinions and you don't see eye to eye, then you've had a learning experience from that. The employer wants to know how you handle conflicts and differences. How do you work through that? How do you make it so that even if you don't see eye to eye, you can be able to still be working towards similar goals and objectives of the organization? And number 5, what do you see as the opportunity for improving yourself? Again, there are many ways in which we recognize ourselves that there are things that we want out of our careers. And that awareness and acceptance of an area where we know we need to make additional development, that's powerful. That tells the employer if you're insightful in that process. If they feel like, wow, this person really recognizes their strengths and their weaknesses and how all of that process can continue. One of the things that I talked about in one of the earlier slides is the questions that you would want to ask of an employer. And Lena actually gave some great information from her talent design potential slide on 5 questions candidates should be prepared to ask in an interview. And this can really help your clients learn, is this a place that they want to work? So with respects to that, the first question is, what is the company or team culture like? You can learn a lot when you understand what the culture is like. Is it very rule-oriented, strict, or is it more laid back and casual? How does that fit? What is their impression of volunteer time and non-work commitments and your work-life balance? All of those different pieces of the company or team culture can help you decide if this is a place that you're going to be happy working. Finding out from the employer what type of person will fit well into their team. In many cases, the employers have an idea of the type of person that they're looking for. And if you find out, wow, they're looking for somebody who's always smiling and giggling and you're not smiling and giggling, then it can tell you whether or not you really kind of fit into what it is that they're looking for. The third question, how can I add to this team? What is it that I can give to you that you feel like your team needs in order to be able to be effective and grow? The fourth one is, what are the expectations of the person that you're going to hire? So being able to really look at that and being able to figure out, what are those expectations? What is it that you want this person to be able to do? Do you have a vision for this position? Do you have an idea of what it is that's going to bring it all together? And then the last one is, what other criteria do you want this person to fulfill? So in many cases, there's a core function of a job that somebody's going to have to be working at. And those are great and those can be very beneficial. But what else are you looking for? Is there a gap maybe in your team that you really think, wow, this person's going to be able to help with that overall process. This person's going to be able to make this effective. This person's going to be the one who can make the difference and pull us all together. So those are some things to think about when you're looking at maybe some questions that you would want to ask an interviewer. I do want to add one more thing that I know I have used in interviews that I think can help people when they're thinking about what it is that can cause that, wow, I'm not even sure how to answer that. And I've seen it a lot. And that's when an employer says, what is it that you thought I was going to ask you about today that I didn't ask? And that really is a powerful question in my mind, because that gives me an idea of what it is this person that I'm interviewing thought was going to be important in this interview process. And maybe they're right. Maybe they bring up something that I really should have thought about that I didn't. But in many cases, it can go back to those issues of what it is that it can tell me about you as a person. If I'm interviewing somebody and they thought I was going to ask them about their salary criteria for a job, that tells me that they've been thinking a lot about the money that's going to be paid within this position. And while money is definitely an important factor, and we all know that we have to make a wage that we can live on, it really can give you some insight into what the person is valuing and what they think is going to be really important. So those kinds of questions can really be helpful in that overall process. As we wrap up the information on interviewing tips and pulling all of this information together, it's very helpful to remember that practicing interviewing is critical for ongoing success. When we think about the individuals who we are working with, many of them may have not utilized interviewing or not participated in interviewing in the past or in the recent past, and really may need to have some refresher courses. In addition, when we look at the overall picture of the interviewing process, it is important for us to remember that interviewing can have some anxiety-producing effects. In many cases, when we're looking at something that can be important to us, that's going to heighten our anxieties associated with that process. So being able to practice and have questions that one knows that they need to develop answers to can really be helpful in that overall process of securing opportunities. So when you're working with your clients or you're preparing for yourself, it's really important to think about what types of questions, similar to those presented in this webinar, as well as many others out there, to be able to prepare individuals for their continuing education opportunities. We'd like to thank you for participating in our webcast Series 1. As noted, this information is being provided through the Ohio Rehabilitation Association. In order to complete the webcast Series 1 presentation on 5 ways career counseling and job placement aspects, you will need to complete a post-test. The link to this post-test is on this slide, and that will take you to a Google Doc where you will answer a few questions. The first question is going to ask you for a post-test code. The codes through this will be associated with individuals from the Ohio Rehabilitation Association, and your first post-test code is Vicky. If you end up with any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Deanna Arbuckle, who is the presenter for this webcast. You can reach Deanna at deanna.arbuckle@gmail.com. If you have additional questions or concerns about the overall registration process, you will need to reach out to the Ohio Rehabilitation Association directly. Thank you and have a wonderful day.